Welcome to the Left Behind podcast. My name is Zachary Fuller. Today I've got Jim O'Brien on the show to talk about voting rights issues, specifically the banning of Sunday voting and the cyber attacks on the Spalding County Board of Election. He is a Democratic appointed member of the Board of Elections, and we can get right into the interview. All right, welcome to the podcast, Jim O'Brien. You're one of the Democratic members of the Spalding County Board of Elections. It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
All right, so just to sort of start this off, can you explain the process of how the members of the Board of Elections are appointed and what exactly the function of the board is?
Okay, that's two separate things. Maybe a little background will help. I started out as a poll observer in the 2020 election and didn't find that all engaging. And then I was invited to be a vote review panelist, people who look at the ballots if there's a question, and I found that quite engaging and liked that. And then I became particularly frustrated with what was happening nationally. And so I decided that I wanted to do a little more, and I was approached by the Spalding County Democrats. Would I be interested in being on the election board? And I really didn't think much about it. I wanted to do something. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to fight. So I said yes.
Okay, so you were just picked by the Democratic side of the board.
Yes, I think so. They watched my involvement increase, and for some reason they selected me. I don't think they had a lot of candidates, to be candid.
All right, so just for my audience to clarify, each party gets two members for that board, which is appointed by the party, and then due to HB 769, which was introduced in March of last year, the Spalding County Superior Court picks the last person, like the tie-breaking vote.
That's correct. And how that's different, in prior years, the two Republicans members of the election board and two Democratic members of the election board, they chose the fifth member. So the fact that segued over to a Superior Court judge was a profound change.
All right, well, the big issue that I want to get into is, of course, Sunday voting in Spalding County, because SB 202, which was passed last year, makes Sunday voting optional for the County Board of Elections. Last year, the Spalding County Board of Elections decided not to do Sunday voting, and now you proposed bringing it back, and so far there hasn't been a vote on it, but it seems like the majority of the board doesn't want to approve Sunday voting. So can you tell me why Sunday voting is so important and why your colleagues don't want it?
Well, for the 2020 election, 900 new people were registered in Spalding County, and of the 900, predominantly African American. So is that a concern for the Republican Party when Ossoff was elected as senator and Warnock and Joe Biden? So that's part of it. Is that the other day my wife read me some statistics that 50% of the voters in Spalding County are African American. Now, if that number should grow, some interesting things could happen politically in Spalding County.
All right, and specifically Sunday voting affects African American voters disproportionately because of souls to the polls and the frequency of having more 9-to-5 jobs in the Black community. Is that correct, or how do you see it? Like,
I do see it. You stated it very well. Is Georgia has allowed Sunday voting since 2014, and Spalding County has allowed Sunday voting since 2017. So the question I keep asking the board is, well, if we've had this history, why are we not offering it now? And the surface statement, at least in September, was it costs too much money in the municipal election. They made a good point saying that at that time there was going to be a 6% turnout. But the reason given why we couldn't have Sunday voting in that municipal election was it would cost $1,000, which I thought was extremely embarrassing that we weren't willing to pay $1,000, even if it was only 3 people who voted. So now in September, Alfred Jester and myself, Alfred being the other Democratic member of the election board, we put forward a motion for Sunday voting. And this time there were 3 things that seemed to have blocked that. 1 was funding, 2 was staffing, and 3 was resources. So it was a 3-2 vote. 3 Republicans voted no for having Sunday voting, and Alfred and I voted yes. So only recently, on I guess it was Tuesday the 8th, we made the same motion that we have Sunday voting for the midterm elections, and the same 3 issues came up: the funding, the staffing, and resources. Now, the motion was tabled to get some more data. I have asked the election supervisor, Kim Slaughter, for a copy of the 2022 budget. I want to know what we're spending our money on. Secondly, I asked her to talk about staffing. And lastly, I wanted to know what is meant by resources. I think that's poll workers. So I'm concerned this time I would like to have a line by line readout of when we say it costs so much. Tell me, who, when, where, and how much. We didn't ask for that the first time around.
Okay, so at that meeting on the 8th, it was a huge turnout. These meetings usually don't have very many people there, but the room was packed with both voting rights advocates and election fraud believers, as well as regular people. So this is a big event, and you were the only member of the board to vote against tabling voting on the Sunday voting issue. Why do you think your fellow Democratic colleague didn't vote against it, even though that was the day with so much public turnout, where we wanted a result, whether it was a yes or no? We wanted to see a result because that had the most public attention. Why were you the only one to vote against tabling?
I don't know. Alfred and I agreed 2 months ago that this is the time we were going to bring Sunday voting back in. And he managed to recruit 6 pastors who were attending the election board meeting incognito. So I don't know why he wanted. I haven't talked with him about that. My reasoning was, what kind of data do we really need? I mean, the so-called elephant in the room is that 38% of people who vote on Sunday are African American. And if you're in the Republican Party, do you want that? Do you want to make that easier? I don't think so. So even though it's not talked about publicly in that election meeting, both sides understand how important Sunday voting is.
So from the data that you do know, what was the impact on turnout and the ease of voting between 2017, 2020, where we had Sunday voting in Spalding County versus last year in 2021, even though it's a low turnout year because it's an off season, did you see any result from banning Sunday voting for last year?
I've not researched the turnout. I wanted to verify that indeed Spalding County had offered Sunday voting before, and I made that argument that not only did Georgia offer it for quite a long time, I wanted to make the argument that so did Spalding County. So I don't know the numbers, but I would have to think if the registration increased, then the turnout would probably increase.
Okay, so correct me on this if I'm wrong, because you said one of the biggest arguments against Sunday voting was financing it, and they only needed $1,000 for last year. The American Rescue Plan set out provisions for reimbursing the county governments for COVID-19 issues, and part of that is running elections because of the extra precautions that you have to take for COVID-19 for running elections. And the American Rescue Plan gave Spalding County multiple millions of dollars. So how has that money been used for the Board of Elections? And do you think that money could be used to fund Sunday voting? Because that is millions of dollars for Spalding County specifically for things like running elections, right?
I don't have knowledge of that, and that's an honest answer on my part. I was taking the approach that if the funding was there since 2017 to 2020, it just seemed to me that was part of how you conduct an election. So all of a sudden, after the 2020 election, we don't have funding for that. And I don't know why. And that's what I want to research. That's why I'm asking for, I'd like to, I realized that Kim Slaughter offered an estimate of $1,000. I want to know what's line by line, what's in that. I think that's terribly low, and it's an offense that we think that we're not willing to pay that. But again, I think the real thing is we're involved in a clash here, and I think not to provide Sunday voting is voter suppression.
Okay, and do you believe that is a specifically partisan issue?
Yes.
Okay, so since there is a Republican majority on the board, do you think there's any possibility of changing one of their minds to get the vote to bring Sunday voting back? Or is this not, like, what's the possibility of actually securing Sunday voting for the midterms?
Well, quite honestly, when I was having a discussion with a board member, in fact, it was the chair, Ben Johnson, and he was actually asking me to remove my motion to put Sunday voting on the agenda. And he said, maybe sometime in the future, you might get what you want. And I just said, that's too risky for me because that's a may, and there's no certitude to that. I said, I want my agenda item to put Sunday voting on that meeting to stay. And he didn't agree with that. And I said to him, you and your Republican colleagues are going to be accountable for how you vote. Mr. Johnson didn't like that at all. But that's the fact, is that if we don't vote, it's going to be very public. People are going to know that the Democratic members were all for Sunday voting and the Republicans weren't. Maybe that's what I think the best that we can do, considering Their 3 were 2.
Okay, so I want to get back to that and sort of what happened on the meeting, but first I want to make sure we get to you and some other members of the staff and the board received thousands of emails about like accusing Spalding County of voter fraud. Can you tell me about how that happened? Who received the emails? Where were they coming from? What were they claiming?
You make me smile because there's some things I know and some I don't. Okay, here we go. I can say that after Thanksgiving, the Friday after Thanksgiving, 40 emails went to the county commissioners and the election board members and representatives Mathiak, Knight, and Senator Harvin.
You said 40?
Pardon me?
How many did you say?
40.
Okay.
40. So right away, I wondered what was going on because there was obviously a template, and the template in it was filled with many accusations and basically demands, but it was thin on facts. Now, Mr. Johnson calls it an investigation. I termed it a spam attack. So what happened after that is in the next week, an additional 1,960 emails went to all the parties described. And what was interesting about that is in the 1,940, they were from all over the country. And that's what really got my attention, is that this is not something local in Spalding County, that all of a sudden this has it's got a nationally organized feel to it. So I asked Mr. Johnson about it in the meeting, and he said that it probably was due to the involvement with, and I am quoting now, social media influencers. Now, at the time, I didn't know what that meant. So in an email, I asked him, what did you mean by social media influencers? So he said, well, maybe, and he named 2 parties. I'm away from my notes right now or on my computer, that maybe they somehow spread this. Well, when I did go to their websites, they were ultra right-wing conspiracy theorists. But that begs the question, who created the original template? When my wife helped me and we went to the website where it was sent from, the site does not allow the author to be recognized. Okay, it's hidden. So someone created this investigation, and it's interesting. It's particular to Spalding County. It had a lot to do with ballot fraud and accusations against Marcia Ridley and calling her a criminal. And the most frightening thing about this template, from my point of view, was a forensic audit. And there was different, we had 3 days. The demand was we had to respond to this in 3 days. And luckily, Stephanie Wyndham, the county attorney, said, look, there's an ongoing litigation right now, and everybody stand down. So neither the county commissioners or the Board of Elections responded to this. Now, 40 went to 60 people. So I have questions like, who created this template? How was it disseminated in Spalding County? In other words, was there a meeting of Republicans, or was there a mass mailing or something? But in other words, somebody okayed the sending of this even internally in Spalding County. Then there's the issue of somebody sent this template to the social media influencers, and they sent it out, and hence we had this volume of attacks. Now, what I was tempted, I wanted to call people up in Texas and Arizona, Minnesota, New York, and say, geez, you signed this petition, on behalf of this inquiry into Spalding County. Tell me a little bit about Marcia Ridley. I know they couldn't talk that, and then I realized I wasn't going to get anywhere. I felt that the public, the residents of Spalding County, needed to know that this happened, and that's as far as I could push it. Then I realized I had to let it go of it.
Okay, what did they say? What the point of the forensic audit specifically is, rather than the regular audits that Georgia already went through 3 times?
Well, yes, they don't believe it was a fair and just election, that it was all it was fraudulent. My own opinion is, I believe one of the intents is to punish the people who were named in part of the lawsuit. Okay, that it's not enough, that some type of settlement come about, or some kind of an agreement. That there was things in there that some were grave and were possibly violations of the law. Others were nothing burgers. Like there was a.
You're talking about the lawsuit against Marcia Ridley?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Or she's in it. Yeah. Yes. So, but then you have things like something that's innocent, and even Stephanie Wyndham is quoted as saying that some of these things were not malicious intent. There's the provisional mailbag. It's locked. So at the end of voting, all the provisional ballots go into this bag, and it's locked. Well, they were flooded. They had too many ballots. They couldn't fit all in that a lock bag. So somebody carried another bag of ballots, and they have to get them there too, by the way, before 10 p.m. or that's breaking the law. So there's things like that are in there that are just bogus. And Kim Slaughter had an excellent observation. She said, okay, you have this petition or investigation that you want answers to, and you want to name the investigating body that's going to do it. What year? The accusations were covering 2020 and 2021, and she rather astutely said, by the way, this and this are not under my jurisdiction, because this board and this election office didn't administer 2020. I thought it was a brilliant observation. So it's wackadoodle is what it is.
Okay, but specifically, I ask about the difference between forensic and a regular audit. What would that prove that a regular audit wouldn't prove?
Well, first of all, a forensic audit, and I've studied this, does not change the results. That's the first thing to know about a forensic audit. The clearest example I could give you was think of Arizona and Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. Okay, we know what happened there. As you pointed out in your remarks, we had 3 audits. The Secretary of State certified the election. There was no fraud. Everything was above board. But I'm glad you mentioned that. The reason I was so upset with this spam attack, that I call it, is if the intent is to harass and overwhelm the existing elections office and board. It's not going to go anywhere. but it's a perpetuation of the big lie that these two elections were fraudulent, and they weren't.
Okay. Well, the reason I was hammering the idea of the forensic difference is that there is a conspiracy theory, and a lot of it is part of the QAnon theory, that you can tell if the ballots were sent in from China because there's traces of bamboo in the paper. Now, that is something that is completely ridiculous and not based in reality, and is frankly racist, because why would there be bamboo in the paper any different? And also, China did not ship in ballots. That doesn't make any sense. That's why I hammered home the forensic thing and see if anyone mentioned that in the emails, because that specifically ties to far-right conspiracy theories, not based in reality.
Okay. Interestingly, that was not part of the so-called petition or investigation that we talked about, but there was an issue with paper. That there was an accusation that Marcia Ridley purchased all this ballot paper to the tune of $7,000. Well, was it all used? If there were ballots that weren't used, where are they? And Kim Slater has said that she did not receive those papers. Now, I don't know how we're going to verify what happened to the paper, something that's 2 years old, but that's a good example of what are we looking at here? Why are we doing this? Why is this so important?
Yeah, why are the blank ballots important when you have all of the ballots that were counted, right?
Yes.
So why are the blank ballots important at all? Why is that relevant?
I mean, in a transition, okay, like here's where part of the devastation of House Bill 769 comes into play is we have a transition between election boards and election office. There's some things that get lost. At least I believe they're lost. I don't know where the paper is. I haven't seen. They've gone over the office and they haven't found it. I don't know what the answer to that is, or I don't know where to go with it. But it's all these little things together. We heard the one fellow that spoke at the February the 8th meeting that he got 12 ballots. Okay, we don't know how that's happened. It's worth looking into, but it's not widespread. It didn't happen all over the place. It certainly deserves study and avoidance and process improvement.
When I hear people say things like that, though, what I think is, even if you receive these ballots, it's not like you can vote on them, because each vote is tied to your ID. So you can only vote once, right?
Exactly.
So what actually could happen if someone receives multiple ballots? There's no way they could commit fraud, right? Unless they have someone else's identity, which is a felony.
Well, when people have attempted, there's that famous story of the guy voted and then he put the second ballot in with his deceased wife. He got caught. That's why we have these quality checks in place to avoid the very thing that they're saying happened. It didn't happen.
Okay, well, a lot of this comes from conspiracy theories. And it seems like, based on what some of your colleagues have said, that they believe in a lot of these big lie, election fraud, and sometimes even QAnon, based on their social media posts, conspiracies. How do you think that has affected the board, and how true is it that some of your colleagues might believe some conspiracy theories that just aren't real?
There's no question that the articles that appeared in The Guardian and
Daily Beast?
Yes, thank you. The Daily Beast shed some light on the fact that at least one of the members and probably all three believe the conspiracy theories and have ties to QAnon. And where I see that playing out almost immediately, and this was again at the February the 7th meeting, is shall we renew the Dominion contract or not? It's interesting that 116 counties all use Dominion, but if you're a conspiracy theorist or you subscribe to that, then you're going to want to get rid of Dominion. So I'm watching that really closely. And the question I have there is, okay, you don't want to spend $31,000 for a maintenance contract. What happens when you have a failure? I have 20 years experience in software quality assurance, and I did testing for the Veterans Administration. And believe me, I know that all kinds of things can happen when you enter a new version. So my own personal opinion is I favor Spalding County, at least for this 1 year, renewing the maintenance contract for its equipment.
Right, and you're talking about the warranty on the Dominion equipment.
That's correct.
Because
now, there is an issue there that is the state owns the election equipment, okay? And so they provide this to the different counties. And the first year, they provided the monies for the warranty. Now that funding issue, that expense is being pushed down to the counties, okay? From my point of view, that's a political concern, a political issue more than anything else.
Okay, and I'd love to hear you speak about that more, but maybe after we get through some more questions, because
Sure.
To be clear, the Dominion machines you can't get rid of, because say the chair, Ben Johnson, I've heard him say that he would like to get rid of Dominion, but the thing is, Dominion has a contract with the state of Georgia, and unless the state of Georgia decides to change contracts, Spalding County can't use any system except Dominion. Is that correct?
I'm not well informed here. I have the impression that there are counties out there that don't have Dominion.
In Georgia?
Yes, I have. It's an impression. Okay, I haven't chased that because I think that we have Dominion, and we would be best served with the maintenance contract with them.
Okay, well, back to the meeting on the 8th. Me and some of the people I talked to after the meeting was over, or at least when you went into executive session, I talked to a lot of the people who had attended, and it seemed like there were delay tactics done because, as I said earlier, and obviously as you witnessed, there was a large public turnout for this meeting. And there were only two things on the agenda. There was first the Sunday voting vote, and then the warranty. Now, the reason given by the chair, Ben Johnson, for switching the agenda, which was a motion done by James Newland, I do believe, was that they had Dominion on hold, which I guess is fair, but I'm not sure if that justifies the process changing, especially with such a highly political issue like the Sunday voting and how they switched that. And then it felt like to a lot of people, it was a delay tactic to get more people to leave early so that they wouldn't witness the vote. Do you feel that has any credibility, or is that just bad optics?
I'll offer a different perspective, and then you tell me what you think. Normally, since June, 2 or 3 citizens at most spoke prior to the normal proceedings. This time, we had 12 or more, 14.
Mm-hmm.
So for the first time, instead of this being over in 10 minutes, it went well into an hour, hour and 15 minutes. So for me, that was more the driver. I didn't pick up or sense a delaying tactic, but I sure wasn't happy that Sunday voting was getting pushed further and further back.
Okay, so you don't think it was malicious. You think it was
No,
just
I don't.
situational.
It kind of made me smile because when I first joined the board, there was a motion, and I wasn't sure it was a good thing, that we would move the election board meetings from the election office, which is a tiny space, to the annex. Well, we had standing room only. That's the biggest turnout of people. It's interesting. There's no doubt that the Republicans got wind that we were going to pack the House. And I have to smile. Not only did they come out with signs and people, but they even pulled in James Dutton.
Who has never been in a dumpster, apparently.
No, but the fact that you held the phone while other people were, dumpster diving, it sounded like, okay, you're running for office. You're trying to disassociate yourself from the dumpster dive. You were there. Most likely you were the prime mover, the prime organizer, and you held the phone. That didn't sway me at all.
Right. And I think that was just he didn't say much. I think that was just a political move from James Dutton, but that's not important. I know you don't have much time to be on the call, but if you would like to touch on the political issues between the state about the warranty, you can use that time now if you'd like.
I don't think I have much more to say on that, but I would like to say I want to personally thank you for your own remarks on Sunday voting. I thought you spoke eloquently. You were very informed. You didn't have a note, and you made your points.
Thank you.
And I wanted to say I've been watching you for the last couple months, and I want to say that the Democratic Party needs more people like you. And I sure hope that you run for election again, because I think you're picking up valuable experience, and Spalding Democrats need to get younger, and I think you're the man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that a lot. And I will say I'm going to run where I feel like I'm needed in the future. But if you have the time, I have a couple more broad questions for you.
Go ahead.
Okay, so how do you feel the 2021 elections went? There were about 3 different elections in Spalding County. How many were you on the board for? And how do you feel they operated? Any issues you'd like to talk about?
I wasn't on the board at all for the 2020 election. Okay, I was a vote review panelist, and I thought that went extremely well. I mean, I was there the morning that the one voting machine went down, and I thought Marcia Ridley handled that in a superior way. She got a technician out there, and it was up and running within 2 hours. So I applauded her for being nimble on her feet and having a workaround, and yet she's severely criticized for a machine failure. So in the 2021, well, I would have joined in June. So I don't.
So you were only there for the November election, right?
Yeah.
And any issues with that, or did it run smoothly with the new board?
You got humans involved. Okay, there was little things. Was there gross malfeasance or no? There was none of that. One of the problems, however, because of this big lawsuit that's still hanging out there from the state against Spalding County, is it was very difficult and remains difficult to recruit poll workers. that there is a sentiment out there that that this is a hard job, and some of the poll workers inadvertently were named in the lawsuit. Okay, so some people are reluctant to get involved, and there is a certain sentiment amongst some people that the people in that lawsuit should go to jail. So in other words, there's some animosity out there. So it's just not that this is a tough job and it's hard recruiting people, but there is, if these people aren't prosecuted and if they're not punished, we don't want to work.
Okay. How would you go about applying? Like, how would you tell people if they want to be a poll worker in Spalding County, how would they apply for that?
Oh, yes. Happy to say that on the Spalding County Elections Office website is an application process. Okay, and I also encourage people to walk by. The new staff, by the way, I think is functioning pretty well. When you watch them work day in and day out, including Kim Slaughter, that the office as a whole, there's only one person remaining from the former office, and that's Mary Passamore, and she's part-time. But when I watch people work, I've been real pleased by the effort in the new election office.
That's good to hear. Do you have any specific goals or concerns with the midterms this year coming up?
I'm more concerned about the forensic audit. If you can remember, at that February the 8th meeting, Jim Newland made an off the hand remark that what we need is a forensic audit. So I think that's out there. It's not going away. You want to talk about money, you know, one, it's not needed in my opinion. We've been certified 3 times as a safe and fair election. So there's the money. Then there's the whole issue of who conducts it. The investigation or petition or whatever you want to call that thing, that mass mailing, did recommend a particular company. Well, what are their credentials? What is their experience? So I am really, really concerned in the long haul that this whole thing, we're not over 2020, not over 2021 either, that we could be dragging this in the mud for a long time.
Are you willing to say what company it was?
I am willing. I just
was it Cyber Ninjas?
I have to get off of Zoom and get in my computer.
Was it Cyber Ninjas?
No.
No? Okay, good.
No.
Because that's the one that did the Arizona audit.
Right. Wasn't them.
Okay, good.
Have you ever, did you see the actual petition itself?
No, I haven't.
All right. Well, I'll remedy that. I'll send you a copy of it so you can see what we're looking at.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Yeah. It's based, some things are paralleling the suit against Spalding County, but then there's other things in there that are new. And the fact that we were supposed to respond in 3 days, somebody with a law background wrote this thing. It's that ugly. And then a specific company was mentioned for the forensic audit. And then we were all supposed to have election on, have a seminar with the lady who was going to come and talk to us about elections. But fortunately, I don't see any movement on this at all. In other words, the county commissioners have been silent. I brought it up on the previous, I guess it was the January election board meeting, and never went anywhere. I mean, I wanted the public to know that it was happening, but the thing that concerns me most is the forensic audit.
Okay. Any concerns with SB 202 or recommendations to voters about how to deal with the new laws?
Well, that's an interesting comment. I think people need to know, first of all, what 769 did to Spalding County. In other words, you look at the major damage that that thing did, and people need to know that it applies only to Spalding County. So when you see that Marcia Ridley was removed with the bogus residency requirement, it's not required of the county commissioner. It's not required of the chief of police, not even a maintenance worker, nobody else except the election supervisor and members of the elections office. Then when you think that Vera McIntosh was removed simply by the stroke of a pen by this new law, without a hearing and without due process, that cries to heaven. It's unjust. Okay, so what I'm saying is that 769 is unjust. Also, one of the African American women who worked in the election office was removed because she was not a resident. Then you had two of the members of the election board resign in protest. One of the things that all these ladies have in common is they're all African American. Now, some members of the election board get upset. You know, we can't be racializing this. You'd be blind if you didn't see that we went from a predominantly African American election board, and it's gone. Okay, so back to 202. In other words, what about 202? Well, as I've quoted, 202 does not prohibit Sunday voting; it allows it. But there's more than that. When you look and study 202 of all the things that it did to protest, what I would suggest is that people go and find the Justice Department sues the state of Georgia. It's a great read. All the things that are seen, it puts in a historical context of voter suppression in Georgia, and all the different ways with ID and reduced voting time and being limited from 5 to 9. There's a whole litany of things in there that says this law is basically unjust, and I can't wait for the U.S. Justice Department to do something about it.
Where can people find that?
I just Googled it. Okay. And then let me make it. Okay, I'm going to send you. Okay.
Yeah, you can just send me all this after.
Okay. All right. I'll send you two things. Yeah. But it's a great read. In other words, people take the time to be informed. You know, that if they know what's happening, and most of all, get out and vote.
All right. Well, one thing I'd like to point out about HB 769 to the audience is the 3 people who wrote it and the person who signed into law are all up for re-election this November. So if you don't like HB 769, you can get out and vote for someone who isn't one of the people who wrote the bill. Right?
Yeah.
So last remarks, what would you recommend to people to get involved? If they want to get involved to improve voting rights and improve Spalding County in general, what would you say for them to do?
The first thing is take a shot at being a poll observer. And one of the reasons I say that is that I've seen a quote recently that the Republicans just spent $5 million recruiting poll observers. Okay, so let's not let them be the only people in the room, but that is, you get to see up close and personal how people are working, and how, in my observation, how people of both parties are fair and just. I saw nothing inappropriate, nothing out of bounds, nothing illegal when I was there. So the first thing is the poll observer, the vote review panel. And I must say that the Democratic Party has a great education program for both of these positions, the poll observer and the vote review panelists. I just found the vote review panel to be fun. And then we're going to need poll workers. So my own opinion is we don't want that to be 100% Republican. We want some of our people out there, working the polls and ensuring a fair and safe election.
Right. And are there any age requirements? Like, do you just have to be 18 or do you have to be 21?
They didn't ask me about that.
Okay.
It's funny. They should probably have an upper limit.
But for the most part, if you're over 18, you would think that
Yes.
people can do those jobs, right?
Yes.
And they are paid positions, right?
The poll observer, no, I was not paid for that. And I was not paid for the vote review panel either. They're both a volunteer. The poll worker, because it's an arduous job. You're on site at 6 a.m. and you're leaving at 9 p.m. And what number of workers told me is no food. You're bringing your own food. So that might be something we look at in the long term.
But the poll workers are paid, right? Just not the observers? Okay.
No, the observers and the vote review panelists are not. But again, the Democratic Party has excellent training programs there. You go in knowing your stuff.
All right. Well, that's great recommendations. Thank you so much for your time, Jim.
All right, Zachary.
And do you know when the next meeting is going to be so that people could show up to that?
Oh, that's the second Tuesday next month. I'm away from my calendar, but it's going to be the second Tuesday. I think I just saw something to that effect on the election board emails today.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for what you do.
You too. Once again, I'd like to thank Jim for coming on the show. It really means a lot, especially with his position on the Board of Elections. But I would like to now talk about the greatest reunion ever, which I've been talking about in the past episodes, but a couple things have changed. One, the money is no longer going to Mr. Don and his family because in his personal life, his medical bills have been paid for. So, by the request of his family, we have shut down the GoFundMe. And if anyone who donated would like a refund, I would gladly repay them, even though most of the funds have already been spent on setting up the concert, which will be this Sunday. That's the 20th, in 2 days from when this is released, at 6 p.m. at Eagles Way Church in Spalding County. Quick editor's note, the location has changed. It will be at 1828 Coffee Co. in downtown Zebulon. That's in Pike County. It's not too far away from Griffin. The location changed for a variety of reasons, and honestly, it might change back. Things are a little iffy right now. But that's why you should go in the description and follow the Facebook event page so you can stay up to date about what's happening with this event. I'm sorry that things are confusing, but the event is free to attend and will be within a 30-minute drive from Griffin, no matter which location we're going to have it at. So just follow the Facebook page, and I'll see you there. Now, this is a reunion of students that used to be students of William Tennyson, also known as Mr. Don, who has been having health problems in recent years, and that's why we wanted to have this reunion. He stopped teaching in Griffin, Spalding County because he moved to be closer with his family in Virginia. Now, he probably won't be able to attend the concert himself, but we are going to send him a recorded copy of the concert. But now, by the request of his family, it will be free to attend. Admission used to be $5, but now if you show up at Eagles Way Church, 6 p.m. on Sunday the 20th, you can get in for free because we no longer need money. And if we do have any money left over, we're going to donate it to a charity. We haven't picked which one yet. We're going to see if Mr. Don would like to be involved in picking that charity. But if we have any money left over, we're going to give it to a charity, probably to help students of the arts, especially music, since that is exactly what Mr. Don did for so many people in Griffin. And now he still teaches where he lives in Virginia. So come out if you can. It's going to be a great concert. This is an ad, but we're no longer raising money. We just want people to show up and support our amazing artists and singers. The list of performers can be found on our Facebook page, which will be linked in the description. All right, so the only thing I have to say to wrap up the show is voting rights across the country and across the globe, but specifically in the United States, has been under attack. Georgia is a testing ground for a lot of these things, and Spalding County, like was pointed out in the interview, has been a testing ground even within Georgia. Now is the time to get involved. Now is the time to organize your community. It's time to start planting community gardens, time to start getting together, talking to your neighbors, and bridging the gap between political divides. You need to support people, especially working class people, because the divide in this country, while it might seem partisan, the divide truly is between the rich and the working class. Get with your neighbors and organize, and also get involved in your local politics. Especially, I'm calling for people in Spalding County to get involved because we have these specific issues that I've been talking about and will continue to talk about on this podcast. But all over the country and all over the world, we need people to get politically involved because of the rise of authoritarianism. We must fight as a working class against people who just want more power and want to oppress us, whether that's on voting rights, civil rights, or any other issue. There's so many things it's hard to keep up with. But if you can get involved in just one way, any small way will help, even if it's just talking to your neighbors, doing a community garden, volunteering every now and then, whether that be as a poll observer, a poll worker, volunteering at a houseless shelter, volunteering at a food bank, volunteering at a community garden. Really, any way you can get involved, please do. That's all I've got for this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned. We're going to keep talking about voting rights issues in Spalding County, as well as other local, statewide, and national issues. Have a great rest of your day. And if you want to support the show, you can follow me on Patreon. Become a patron for just $5 a month at patreon.com/Xenerock. You can get on my Discord server. $15 a month at the beginning of the show. I will shout you out, whether that is your name, your username, your Cash App, I think that's legal, or your business. Please support me on Patreon if you want to keep seeing content like this. It really helps me out in these difficult economic times. All right, have a great rest of your day.